Hello, hello! Could it really be possible to live 150 years like the president of Russia and China have suggested? Will they achieve it through transplant, just as they hint? What's the secret of 80 years old still running the world at full capacity? And which are the leading companies in rejuvenation and how the stocks are performing? Stick around, we are starting this taxi! Welcome to Taxi Biotech, a show to keep up with the latest news and updates from the world of biotechnology and to learn about its impact on the stock market. The stock data I present here is just a reflection of how companies or the clinical trials are progressing and does not constitute any investment recommendation. This is purely for entertainment. Few days ago, the leaders of Russia, China and North Korea got together and on a hot mic they were heard talking about transplants and how to live 150 years. But is that even scientifically possible? I mean, if one of your organs fails today, yes, you can get a transplant, but there are many limitations. The organs have to be compatible, there has to be a matching donor, there is always a risk of long-term rejection, but who knows, maybe these three have their own clones hidden away on some island ready to harvest organs whenever they need them. Remember that movie? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, but I doubt that's the case. Most likely, they were talking about a standard human-to-human transplant or about scientific advances that are making it possible to genetically modify pigs so their organs can be transplanted into us. And in fact, pig-to-human transplants have already been done. There have been a few cases in the world where genetically modified pig organs were used, kidneys, even a heart. But in the end, the patients didn't survive. The success rate just isn't acceptable yet. Still, research continues. The company's eGenesis is specifically working on genetically engineered pigs for this purpose. They are designing pigs with 69 genes removed to make their organs compatible with humans and reduce the risk of rejection. Personally, I do think that in the future this kind of technology could work. Not tomorrow, because our immune system is very good at detecting foreign antigens, but with CRISPR gene editing we can now fine-tune genes much better than even before. There are also other companies working on a similar idea but applied to human cells. For example, Sana Biotechnology. Basically, cells are edited to remove the labels that identify them as foreign. They can be injected into patients to replace bad cells. There have already been successful in one diabetic patient and the results look very promising. So yeah, at some points organ might stop being a problem because we're able to replace them with healthy ones. But then comes the real issue. The brain. A brain can't be replaced. If you did, you wouldn't be you anymore. And so far, injecting neurons hasn't been shown to work either. That's the real limit because from around 80 or 90 years old, even if the body is in great shape, the brain declines. So what's the point on living 150 years if your brain doesn't work? Of course, some people might joke that those three leaders don't really use their brains now anyway. And let's be honest, these guys are not young. The American is 79, the others are in their 70s. They are holding up pretty well though, right? Could they be secretly using something? Well, here's where the actual science comes in. There is evidence that molecules in young blood can rejuvenate older people on multiple levels, even in the brain. There are experiments where components of blood like PF4 have been injected and shown to rejuvenate mice. These components of the blood are platelet factors that reduce neuroinflammation and increase synaptic plasticity in neurons. One possible mechanism is that there is a receptor that binds to this platelet molecule, triggering those benefits, even in the brain. Researchers have also discovered other factors linked to PF4 that can boost it and generate rejuvenated effects. Of course, these experiments have only been done in mice. This is still early research. There is been some buzz on social media, and even the FDA has warned that this is not proven, especially since some influencers are literally taking blood from their kids and injecting it into themselves. As always, I leave the links in the comments. Those classic mouse experiments where they connect the blood vessels of a young mouse to an older seems to work. Maybe part of the effect comes from the younger mouse's stronger filtration capacity, which makes the blood environment less toxic for the older one. Researchers are also now testing plasma from young donors. In the end, maybe the Simpsons were right. You remember that episode where our favorite alien showed world leaders were connected to stay alive? So what do you think? Do they have clones hidden on an island or frozen young blood? Let me know in the comments. And hey friend, this is Taxi Biotech, where we mix biotechnology and investment. So let's check out which companies are working on these therapies and whether they are publicly traded. First one, Alkahest, a company owned by Grifols. Yes, finally a Spanish company. They are testing plasma fractions in patients with neurodegenerative diseases. Grifols' stock took a great hit after Gotham City report saying that their shares were worthless, but they've been recovering since. I won't do a deep dive into their valuation today, but if you want that, just let me know in the comments. I've already published my plays for this quarter. Next, Sana Biotechnology. They've already tested modified human cells in a diabetic patient. Cells that don't trigger a reaction and can regenerate the pancreas. When they announced their first success in a human, their stock skyrocketed 300%. Since then, it's come back down to last year levels. The study is still preclinical and based on a single patient, so there is a long way to go before market approvals. Plus, they also did a stock offering in August. You know how badly that usually eats a stock. If you want a tax report on Sana Biotechnology, let me know in the comments. Then we have Humacyte, which makes replacement blood vessels and plans to expand to all organs. Market cap is only around 230 million and the stock's been pretty beaten down in recent weeks. And of course, CRISPR Therapeutics is also working in diabetic solutions with this technology. Then we've got some big names that aren't publicly traded, like Altos Labs, backed by some of the world's richest millionaires, or Retro Biosciences, also funded by massive private capital. Universal Cells, now owned by Astellas, is trying to make universal healthy cell donors. And of course, eGenesis, the one engineering pigs for organ transplant. Did I miss any company? What do you think? Drop it in the comments so we can all learn together. And that's it for today's video. See you next time. Goodbye.